It was strange that Ormo had asked Syrina to meet him in his suite instead of his hall, and it pricked at her thoughts as she crossed the broad courtyard toward the palace, where the 15 towers of the syndicate crowded together like a bundle of blunt spears. The northern sky was thick with winter fire dancing against the glow of the eye, whose purple and red gibbous loomed to the south and gobbled any starlight that might have competed with the flickering green and yellow in the north. The black ellipse of a private airship etched itself against the moon as it drifted towards the western dock tower. Winter fire splashed against the high marble and obsidian walls, while the eye drained the world of all detail, reducing the dry fountains and pacing guards to vague, two-dimensional shapes. The dull hum of the naphtha generators resonated beneath the flagstones under her bare feet, and combined with the groan of a steamship whistle rolling across Ain from the harbor. The cold was intense. The mercenaries manning the priceless iron gates and the tops of the walls were layered in houndskins and silk underclothes, but Syrina could still see them shivering in the dim conflagration of light. She was naked, the cold a faint nuisance in the back of her mind. No one was looking her way, and if they did, they wouldn't see more than a tick of motion across the marble flagstones their eyes wouldn't be able to follow. She was covered with fine, black tattoos. They seemed to move, coming together and branching again in infinite complexity, like a fingerprint, from the top of her bald head to the bottoms of her feet, over her lips and under her nails. Just her green eyes, guarded by black lashes, could be clearly seen. The same minute manipulation of her muscles that kept the cold at bay blended her tattoos into the surroundings until she was just a shadow, even to herself. The palace doors, like the larger gates to the compound behind her, were emblazoned with the spiral of skalkad, but instead of etched steel, the doors were black burnished brass. The 3 white arms of the spiral were opal, the 3 black ones set with tiny black pearls. Syrina forced eye contact with the black and silver-clad seneschal posted at the doors until he noticed her and stepped aside with a hasty, nervous bow. The hallway stretched beyond the foyer, built from blocks of obsidian. Every 20 paces, there was a short stairway of white marble leading up to the next tier. The hall was lined with iron doors marked with spirals, but otherwise unlabeled. Above each portal was a large marble hand, palm upward, holding a hissing bluish flame. Syrina had no idea what lay behind any of the doors except for the second to last one on the left, and that's where she went. Her knock against the heavy metal sounded dull, like banging on a stone wall, but a few seconds later it silently swung inward. The seneschal who greeted her with a wordless bow didn't lead her into the study where she'd met Ormo the few other times he'd summoned her to his private quarters, though she could see the light from the fireplace glinting on the half-open bronze door that led there. Instead, the little man led her further into the chambers, to the spiral stair that led to the top of Ormo's tower. The seneschal left her there and disappeared back into the palace. The stairway was broad, the steps shallow. There was no guardrail. Each stair was again cut from alternating obsidian and white marble. In the center, a massive brass brazier was sunk into the floor, burning with blue flame fed by pipes that ran all the way to the naphtha cisterns buried below the city. There was no other source of light, but the brazier flickered and glowed against the polished walls all the way to the top, where Syrina could make out a mosaic of the skalkad spiral set into the ceiling. The cold didn't particularly bother her, but the warmth from the brazier was pleasant. She took her time mounting the stairs and hesitated a moment at the top to bask in the faint rising heat. "Kalis Syrina," Ormo said when she stepped out onto the terrace. He waved off her bow and opened his arms to fold her into his robes for a brief, warm embrace. She returned the hug, glad they were meeting in his private quarters, where Ormo preferred foregoing with the usual formality he upheld when seated on his dais. She stepped back when he released her, taking in the details of her surroundings. 20 years of training and 9 more as one of Ormo's Kalis, but this was the first time she'd been here. A half-dome of marble arced over and behind her, robbing the view of the 14 other palace towers and the winter fire in the north.